Hi, welcome to the Allegro 2 Foot Bar podcast. My name is Nora St. John and with me is Portia Page. And we're going to go through exercise sequences to do with the foot bar in positions other than at this end where you're used to seeing it. We have some exercises in position number 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to start with position number 5 and some wonderful things to do there. Portia, let's move the foot bar. These are nice to do with a blue spring, so I'm going to change Portia's spring to a blue. And we've designed these to be little chunks of exercises so that you can easily incorporate one position change of the foot bar into your classes or sessions rather than having to be continually switching it around. So the first exercise is a seated hamstring exercise. Portia's sitting on the foot bar. She's really tall. One thing about this foot bar is it's really precarious to sit on because it's rather thin and sit bones are rather narrow. So it really forces you to sit up nice and tall, otherwise you fall off. So Portia's going to be standing up really tall and just bringing the carriage underneath the foot bar. And she can get a nice full range of the hamstrings by allowing the calves to roll up onto the top of the shoulder rests. There are some options here. Should Portia get comfortable here with supporting herself on the foot bar, she can take her hands off. This adds a lot more core stability, a lot more shoulder work, a lot more focus. And if this gets comfortable, then we can start to add some rotation. And again, the stability of the pelvis is going to make that rotation happen more in the torso, which can be a really nice way to get some torso rotation. If this weight is working for somebody and they can tolerate it, you can also take this on one leg. So Portia could take one leg off, again, getting even harder with the torso stability. She's bringing her hands down for more support there, and just bring one leg in and out, and the other leg. Nice. This is a great way to get just some really good hamstring work going for somebody in a really simple position. So the next thing we're going to do is another hamstring exercise. Wait a minute, one more thing we have to do here first. There's two other great exercises here. One of them is shrugs and tricep dips. So Portia's going to scoot her hips off. She's going to shrug down and shrug up. The knees are bent, so this is a beginner version of this exercise. It's a nice place to do it. And she's also got to keep using some core support and some leg work to maintain the position of the lower body. Once she's comfortable with the shrug, she's going to bring her shoulder blades down and then keep those shoulder blades anchored down to add the tricep dips. If she wanted to add challenge here, she could take a leg off. She could do some other exciting adventures. But that's going to add some nice upper body work to our hamstring work. Now the next piece here, the last one in this position, is a small version of the tendon stretch. So here, Portia's going to pull the carriage towards her. This is a really, really nice place to work on that hardest part of the tendon stretch, which is really letting the back flex, letting the eye focus look really at the navel, and get that nice deep scoop of the abdominals in. Portia's taking a variation now with the legs bent to make that a little bit easier. Now going from there, we're going to move into a supine hamstring series. So I'm going to hold on to the carriage while it comes forward. Portia can also release it. We'll take off the shoulder rest so they're out of the way. And the removal of the shoulder rest is what makes this possible. So Portia's going to sit on her headrest. So you want to have somebody very scooted towards this end of their carriage to make sure that their head has enough room at this end. Hooking the ankles over. Now here remember that not everybody has a good ankle hook. They may have a very small calcaneus or something else. So a pad can help here, and this may not work for everybody. But when it does work, it's an awesome hamstring stretch. Or hamstring stretch and strengthen, I should say. So as Portia comes in, she's getting some really good hamstring stretch here, hamstring strength here. Pelvis is staying nice and steady. She's getting some nice stability work there. And now this adds the opportunity for many other exercises to happen here. So Portia can take some curls. Now adding in the upper body and the lower body. Also adding the abdominals in with the back of the legs, which is an interesting way to take the stress out of the hip flexors for a lot of these abdominal exercises. She can add an oblique abdominal curl, either keeping the leg on for an easier version or taking it off for a harder version. This is actually harder than it looks. So this may be as far as your clients want to go. Sometimes you can take the weight a little bit lighter, like maybe even to a yellow, and that might make it possible for some people to use their, to do this with their hamstring strength. Now, Portia's taking this up into a roll-up and then into a teaser. This also is way harder than it looks. So this one is another way to do this. You can do either with the legs straight or the legs bent. If the legs are straight the whole time, it's a little more challenging. At the end, you can bend the knees to bring that in. And then we can come up into a little teaser prep here. And again, because she's engaged in those hamstrings, it takes some of the pressure out of the front of that teaser position. And rolling back down from there. So there is hamstring work, both seated and supine. Now we have some other options in this position. We're going to go on and do some kneeling. And this kneeling is a nice way to get some scapular work and some spinal work. So here, Portia's going to hold on to the foot bar. Now you've got deep knee flexion and deep hip flexion, so that has to be comfortable for your client. And your shoulders are really in full flexion here. So all those need to be in place. Portia can start here with just some shoulder shrugs, coming down and up. And then she can add here a little pulling down, so bending the elbows to bring the head towards the foot bar, a little pull down, if you will. And then we're going to add another piece to this. So Portia's going to start in this nice leaned over position, but come up into a sitting position. And then she's going to roll back down to come to a flat back position again. So this creates a really nice lift of the chest. It integrates the abdominal work with the back work because she has to find both to find that nice upright seated position. Now, if the arms are not quite the right length here, you can come up and add a little jump here. So Portia's going to come all the way up, and she's going to actually, her arms are long enough to hold on to the foot bar, but if they weren't, she could just let them fly a little bit at that last moment. Now, this means you've got to control the momentum of the carriage, so she's not going to run into that foot bar. But it's a nice way to get some glute power and some leg power to bring those hips forward, like you're doing a jump. And if Portia wanted to have some more fun, she could play with those, taking those arms off. That's right. Or do a little clap. Yep. There we go. Nice. So following the kneeling exercises, we can go on to some reverse elephant and some very fun things in the reverse elephant position. So here Portia's going to be standing fairly far forward on the carriage. This is going to depend on the length of the body. Now, a couple things to notice here. Portia's hands are on the foot bar, and she can maintain nice hip flexion and a neutral spine here because of her flexibility. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. So if that's not possible, you can do this with the knees bent. And that'll give you a lot of the same energy and activation without the limitation of the hamstring flexibility. So we'll start here with just some shoulder shrugs, which we've done in a few positions. It's very nice to pull those shoulders down against resistance. It really helps to work on scapular stability for people and to help them understand how to do that. Then we can go into elephant from here. So we've got round back elephant, where Portia's essentially really curling from the pubic bone all the way to the top of the head, engaging deeply through the whole front of the body. And you'll also see some arm activation there. And then we're going to come into a flat back elephant, and this really becomes all arms. Because you see here Portia's staying neutral relatively in her spine, and she's just going into some really kind of intense shoulder extension, bringing the arms down towards the hips. And that feels really nice. Intense, but nice. And then there's another variation here, which really isn't an elephant at all, but takes you into a squat. So you kind of come to a sit to squat, and then come back up to your elephant. And this looks a little harder than it is. There's something about that pull forward with the arms that takes the weight out of the legs, really helps you stay lifted out of that deep squat position. And you can always add some arms there. So there is the reverse elephant position with the squat at the end. So this whole series includes 2 hamstring series, one seated and one supine. It also then includes some of the kneeling exercises and then the whole reverse elephant series. That is position 5.